At this place in history, we're in New Haven with Steve Perkins, the Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society. And Steve, we've come to the New Haven Green because it's likely a good place to illustrate a kind of abstract, esoteric, uniquely Vermont concept that a lot of people might not be familiar with.
Yes, Mike. So a few weeks ago, as you remember, we were in Milton,
and
we were talking with the town historian there, and he had mentioned glebe land.
He did.
When Benningworth chartered every town, land was given for a church to be built, property for a rectory for the priest to live, and a property for the priest to rent out.
Glebe land is a small subset of a larger term that we have come to call lease lands. We're going to oversimplify this today so it fits into a TV show. So Benning Wentworth, governor of New Hampshire, so he started granting land. So he started drawing squares on maps. Pieces of land were given for different uses. And he figures, well, if we put land in here for the first minister or the church, it's probably going to be congregational. So how do we guarantee money goes to the Anglican church? So he had a requirement that they set aside land for the society for the propagation of the gospel in foreign lands. It's basically the mission arm of the Church of England.
The revolution took care of most of that,
Right.
but not all of it.
The state of Vermont did the same thing. So leases would go to what then later became UVM. They set aside land for schools.
Certainly.
They set aside land for churches. And so all of that persisted on our books. And Mike, I actually brought a really early surveyor's journal.
Nice.
It's not that those things are to be built on those properties. It's that the leases from those properties go to support those banks.
Wherever they might happen to be.
One of the first U.S. Supreme Court cases dealing with this issue of lease lands was brought by the town of New Haven. And Daniel Webster, the famous jurist, represented New Haven, challenging the Treaty of Paris that ended the American Revolution. The Treaty of Paris said, and again, paraphrasing for all the lawyers out there, you're not going to take people's land away. This lasted until 1927, when finally the Vermont Supreme Court said, you can quitclaim that land over to the Episcopal Church of America. So as a town, theoretically, you're not taxing these lands. Instead, you're taking 25 cents, 50 cents, when you could be getting hundreds of dollars in tax money for it instead. So it wasn't good for the towns either. But then in the last 15 years or so, title insurance companies saying you can't get a warranty deed on this property you're selling, Mike, because 2 feet of it is part of lease land in 2020. 2020. It takes us until 2020 to take care of this colonial vestige of colonial England. Finally, the Vermont legislature passed a law that met judicial, the bar, that said if towns don't exercise their right to this land, it'll just revert or go to the landowner. 7-ish municipalities in Vermont said, hey, we're going to keep our rights to lease lands. Everywhere else, not an issue. You can get a clean title.
You mentioned, Steve, the surveyor's books. All of you at the Vermont Historical Society have digitized them, so anybody can look at them remotely.
Absolutely. Go to Digital Vermont. It's a part of our website, and there are 3 books. So if you live in the northern part of the state, you may be able to find your town, and you can see where all those lots go. It's fascinating stuff.
More than 250 years of lease land complications at this place in history.